Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. 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 Promoter 101.
I'm Amy Morrison. I work at Concerts West, AEG Presents, and I'm on Promoter 101.
Welcome, one and all, episode 141 of Promoter 101. Today we've got a very special episode coming up, focusing a little bit on Germany this week, with our featured interview on this podcast being AEG's Aissata Hartmann, focusing on some operational things for one of the biggest venue owners over in Germany.
Then we've got a war story from Denver's hottest independent, 3 Deep Productions. Francois Baptiste has been doing it for the better part of 3 decades, and he's got some seriously cool hip-hop stories to take us into the trenches with. This week was the ACMs in Vegas, and there's a million award shows, but what you really don't get a sense for sometimes is what it's like to be there. And luckily for you, our in-the-field correspondent, Luke Pierce, was there in person. Luke, can you give us a vibe for what that's actually like? The red carpet and being in the room and all those celebrities and the Vegas and the whole fucking thing at the ACMs?
Sure, Dan. Reporting live from the bar at the MGM Garden Arena, where I spent most of the ACM Awards this year. I can certainly talk about that. What you see on TV is a very small piece of the 10 to 12,000 person arena that is packed for a given award show, whether that be the Grammys or the Country Music Awards that happen here in Nashville, or the Academy of Country Music Awards, which are each spring in Vegas. So yes, it is the top of April, which means that it is ACM's award season. Party for a Cause is live and well, and the week of events leading up to the ACMs, all the concerts and charities, are an exhausting process just leading into Sunday afternoon to the red carpet and all the festivities that surround the awards. So first of all, the West Coast award situations are always a very bizarre situation. Red carpet typically opens up about 2:30 local time, and the awards, you're in your seats sometime around 4:45, 5 o'clock for the East Coast broadcast. And what you see on TV, there's generally 2 stages that are set up in kind of a 3/4 cut down arena vibe. One side is dedicated to one piece of production that you'll see on stage, and then they'll have an artist performing the other. So you get to see kind of the actions and behind the wheels for how the sets are created in a very unique way to make sure that every minute of stage time is being utilized, turnover and everything is in place. My favorite part about the awards is generally getting to see the artist perform is an incredible thing. So usually having a rundown sheet is great. There are certain things that I may not necessarily want to see. So you bop out to the bar as you do for anything, Dan, and a lot of business, just like a conference or anything else, gets done in the bar or the backstage area of award shows. It's the one time in a particular genre of music and country where you essentially have a lot of the key decision makers, deal makers, and players and artists all together, not in just a room, like on the same floor as everybody. So it's a pretty incredible space to just be running and bopping into people. And I often find myself in a 3.5 hour broadcast, probably 2 hours of which I'm out of my seat talking to somebody else. It's just a fun time getting to see a lot of great faces. And of course, you're there to celebrate some great music and some achievements over the past year. But it is quite the snooze fest and a great time to be hanging out as well, too. So I highly recommend it. They do actually sell tickets to the public for ACMs and CMAs. They're on the spending side of things, but when you consider all the amazing performers and the performances you get to see, the collaborations very frequently between those things, it's a great value. So can't recommend it enough.
Luke Pierce reporting live on Promoter 101 as if he was still at the bar, but he's not. But we'll pretend that he was. From the ACMs. Thank you, Luke.
Let's put the pedal to the metal and the metal to the floor, Dan. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hi, this is Adam Parsons from Siren Artist Management on Promoter 101.
Have you missed any of our past episodes? Well, now we have a very special offer just for you. You can go onto that computer or World Wide Web thing and come up with promoter101.net and search for any of our past episodes. This week, we have a fine vintage episode picked out just for your palate. Episode 85, I think you'll find especially delightful.
Dan Steinberg, Il Sommelier of Reissues of the Week, including his recommendations. That podcast podcast had a great featured interview with record biz icon Harvey Leeds, bringing you some energy that he is known the world over for.
It's hard to hear his name with the word fucking not in the middle. Harvey fucking Leeds, you know? It just seems like how you always hear it. And it's usually because he's flipping off everyone he fucking meets and telling him to go fuck himself. Kind of love Harvey for that.
Dan, I'm glad that you took the time to correct me on this podcast because I'm sure Harvey would have done it in person.
Well, I enjoy correcting you. It's one of my favorite things to do is you also enjoy correcting me. It's definitely a favorite pastime of both of us.
I would say that I told you so is on both of our family crests.
And go fuck yourself as well. Somehow, I imagine fits on there somewhere. I know that your family probably came over on the Mayflowers. That's your breeding, but my family certainly did not. So we don't have a fucking crest.
No, I think we should make you one. Write into Steiny at promoter101.net. Tell us what should be on Dan's family crest.
Yeah, I'm a little scared. Anyway, we also have WME's Henry Glasscock, a.k.a. the Crystal Pistol, giving us his views on the industry. And nobody really views the industry like Henry.
One of a kind, he is indeed, and a great interview on episode 85. We ended that podcast with a great war story from Live Nation Concerts, Omar Al-Jilani.
Love Omar. Does it like a boss.
Like a boss.
If you want to drop us a review, tell us what's up, anything, we'd appreciate it if you spread the word about the podcast. Tell people about us, because before you know it, we may not be here forever. So you got to enjoy the ones that we have coming up and while it lasts, because I don't know. You never know when this is going to end, Luke. You never know.
Never know indeed, Dan.
That's a foreshadow.
This is Mary Claire Borgelli from Live Nation, Promoter 101, best podcast in the music industry.
News of the week.
So we've got the news of the week from W. Luke Pierce from the one and only Works Entertainment, giving us the inside scoop of what's going on in the industry. And I'm hoping he's going to break down for us what the fuck's going on in Australia with the guys at AEG and Chuggy. I'm sure that's coming up.
It's time for news of the week. Down under, they're calling it the end of the Indies. Major news following last week's merger in Australia between Michael Chugg's Chugg Entertainment and Michael Dudinski's Frontier Entertainment, as Frontier Entertainment will form a joint venture with AEG, bringing the last Australian indie in line with Europe and North America, marking an end of an era in Australia as the last remaining tour market that is not controlled by multinational corporations and AEG or Live Nation. Short and sweet, Lil Nas X has stormed up the charts. Billboard Hot 100. His song Old Town Road represents the shortest song on the list in 43 years at 1 minute and 53 seconds. The remix by Billy Ray Cyrus was 2 minutes and 7 seconds. While the song drew ire from many, Lil Nas X has parlayed it into success, signing with Columbia Records. According to Hits, he's still out there searching for management. In the streaming world, Apple has claimed a major victory over Spotify, with the Cupertino company overtaking Spotify for the largest number of U.S. subscribers at 28 million, besting Spotify's 26 million, according to a report from the Wall Street Journal. That'll do it for News of the Week.
This is Alex Hodges with Nederlander Concerts, and I'm here with Promoter 101.
Up next, a war story from one of Denver's hottest independent promoters from 3 Deep Productions, Francois Baptiste.
How about one of the legends from hip hop? You got a juicy one for me?
Yeah, it's not so much that I promoted this show, but this was at the very, very beginning of my career. And I was doing this video show here in Denver, and they had called me, and there was this new kid, and they didn't know about him really. And, hey, man, where you go? He was on I keep forgetting this, and I know you can help me out. Not Lollapalooza, but there was another tour that was kind of very punkish, very rockish.
You mean Warped?
It was a Warped Tour.
Okay.
It was a Warped Tour because, Eminem was on that.
Oh, yeah, in the parking lot of Mile High Stadium.
Yes. So they asked me to go interview him, and I was like, okay, fine. He had the new single out. It was just kind of bubbling. He was kind of still nobody at that point. And so they get on. They were very excited to do the first interview in Colorado.
Oh, I remember this show. This was, yeah.
And so we're on the tour bus, and we're starting to drink Flaming Dr. Peppers. I don't even know what Flaming Dr. Peppers are. All I know is these dudes was pouring way more alcohol than Coca-Cola in it. So we're drinking it, and we're doing this interview. This is, God rest his soul, 2 Proof, Eminem's guy. And so we're sitting there drinking, doing this interview, and we're trashed. Like trash. He hasn't gone on stage yet. It's now time for him to go on stage. We get the crew off the bus, and we lock the door. We look around because they want us to film when he's on stage. Where's Eminem at? Eminem's on the bus. So he yells out the window, he's like, who has the key to the bus? Everybody's around. Nobody can find the key. He's on in like 5 minutes. This guy kicks out the bus window and kind of flails his body out of the bus window, falls on the ground, has to get dragged to the stage. And it was just one of the funniest incidents ever I've seen, just because it was pure panic of how do we get this guy off this bus? And he was finally like, I'm just going to kick out the window and make it. So that was one of my funniest stories ever.
I love that. The funny thing is I didn't know that story at all, but I did see that set and he was fucking mess.
Yeah, man. There's a couple times. I love the whole Shady Crew. And one time, just another funny story with Eminem, just because those are my guys. He played the Club Bash before it became the Summit Music Hall.
Oh, you going way back.
Yeah, man. And he stood on stage, and this is when he was really starting to...
Yeah, it was popping.
Yeah. And he stood on stage, and he drank this bottle of vodka to the head, just took it to the head. We were like, oh, shit.
A full-on fifth, right?
Yeah. Puts it down, just probably says another couple words, and then he just falls on the ground.
As you would do, because he weighed 100 pounds.
But it was kind of part of the show because he was kind of all over the place. It was kind of a funny part. And so even his security guards were, 6'6", 280. They're just standing there, and I'm sitting there like, hey, guys, he's not moving. So they all perk up, and they're like, M. He's still not moving. Nobody said goodbye to the crowd or nothing like this. So they literally go pick this dude up, and he's limp. So they literally have these two, 6'6" guys, and they put his arms around their necks and carry him off stage. So his feet aren't touching the ground. They're literally just carrying this man out. And they just kind of lay him back. He kind of kicks back in. It was just a mess. It was what a mess, but it was so much fun. And those are those shows that you just kind of live for your life.
There's pictures from that night with him being carried out, going limp.
Yeah.
That I think made the AP press because they were everywhere.
Yeah.
And this was before Facebook.
Yeah. So those are good ones. And like I said, the DMX knocking that kid out was nuts. War story. But yeah, man, we'll keep it. The past is the past.
Awesome. Francois Baptiste with the best stories, man. Thanks, you so much.
Appreciate it.
Keep an eye out for a full interview from Francois coming up in just a couple of days.
This is Andy Levitt with Live Nation Comedy. You're listening to Promoter 101.
Tweets of the week.
I hope you're ready because it's time for some tweets of the week. Let's look into what Dan had to say this week on Twitter with hashtag Promoter101. Let's start here. When an agency tries to sneak hotels or backline into the deal after the show has already been confirmed and accepted.
Yeah, this one seemed to get a whole bunch of controversy going up on social media this week. Anyway, come with it before you confirm or do the right thing and just keep it out of the deal and eat it yourself. It's just the right way to do business.
When in a social business setting, never do anything to embarrass your company. Dan?
This mostly is a reminder to myself, actually, so thanks for calling me out on that, Mr. Pierce. Stakes seem to be a little raised this day. I have a lot more people I can embarrass. It used to just be Jason and my employees, and now it's suddenly a global company I can embarrass all at once.
I wouldn't advise throwing pieces of balled up bread across the table into other people's mouths at Del Frisco's, Dan.
You know what? That's a fun story. Let's take a minute and tell that story. That was the best. Home Free had a massive day where they got to do the Today Show, and we were celebrating that with dinner at Del Frisco's, and there were just a bunch of people we love at that table. We were all hanging out, and I think this was the first time I ever met the Home Free guys, actually, if I remember correctly.
It was indeed. It was actually the first time that a lot of us had been together in the same room. This was 5 years ago now, and I think either coming out of APAP or going into APAP, one or the other, everyone happened to be in town. They hadn't picked an agent yet at this point. They just signed with us for management, and we knew that, Dan, you were going to be doing a bit of the business in the early days for this, and they had a great morning that morning on the Today Show and a bunch of productive meetings at Columbia, the record label, and we all went out to celebrate with a nice dinner at Del Frisco's that started with drinks at the bar with some colleagues and some other agents and yourself and myself and David Britz, and ended upstairs at that New York Del Frisco's at the big center table that they have up there with everybody together.
It's Manhattan, and it's right in the middle of everything, right off of Times Square, and the dead center table in the middle of the dining room at Del Frisco's. So if there wasn't attention on us already, now there is.
By the way, I should say this. They signed with us in late December. We'd had several phone calls leading up to that. We had a few meetings with them along the way as part of the wrap-up of the sing-off, and it was still a very nascent relationship for us as managers, and they're kind of meeting like what the extended family of their business will look like for the very first time. Along the way, there was a little bit of commotion throughout the evening. There were a lot of drinks being poured, and I just remember at one point looking up at something hidden hit me in the shoulder, which was a balled up piece of bread that rolled down into my lap. And then another one came across, and I looked across the table at you, Dan, and you had what I would best describe as being an entire loaf of bread that you were ripping up and balling up and trying to land either in my mouth at one point or whatever. And this game continued probably for a bit until Andrea Johnson stopped it. Let's just say that.
Because you got into it too, and we were kind of reenacting that Blues Brothers scene when they went into the fine restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And you and me were just being our proper hooligan selves, and you were throwing, I think, like grapes back at me or something. But I was blowing off steam because somebody had said something to piss me off a little earlier, which I had gone outside to vent, and then I came back and I was like, fuck it, let's have some fun. Actually, I think you called me back and made me come back to the table.
I was to say.
It's just like I was being me, you were being you, and we were having fun. And we forgot that there were maybe 14 other people with us that maybe we were embarrassing while this was happening. Suddenly forgot that we were there to put our best foot forward in front of new clients.
I think they really did have a fun dinner, and we went to karaoke together afterwards. It was a great meal. But as we get back to Tweets of the Week, Dan, I think that's an excellent opportunity to remind people that in those settings, just sometimes with a few drinks, you might all of a sudden embarrass yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I can't say that we were drunk. I think we would have done that sober. Just we didn't know the group well enough to be doing that in front of them yet. I would absolutely have no problem doing that in front of any of them now, and I think most of them would actually encourage it.
They might expect it, actually. We might have set the bar too high for antics in that first meeting.
Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to tweets.
All right, back at it one more here, Dan. Keeping a straight face as you announce a reunion tour featuring none of the original members of the band.
This one just made me smile a lot. By the way, I can honestly say this one has nothing to do with any of your clients this time.
That will just about do it for some tweets of the week. Make sure you follow Dan on Twitter. He is @TheJew.
Hi, it's Marcy Allen, president of Mac Presents, and honored to be on Promoter 101.
In our featured interview this week, Aissata Hartmann from AEG Germany sits down with us to talk about the worldviews of venue operations outside the U.S.
London, England, it's ILMC, and we are talking about Berlin business. And you're with AEG, so you've got a great view of that world business. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get to the heart of the big business that you're in the middle of in Berlin, can we talk about how you found your way to the music industry?
Yeah, sure. I started when I was still a student. My mom's friend used to work for Carsten Janke, who is a legendary promoter in Germany, and they needed some help and had some work for students. So I started there in ticketing, selling tickets and doing box office, making money beside doing my studies. And then I started being an assistant for Carsten Janke for the jazz tours and somehow got stuck in the business.
So when you switched to the venue side, you're suddenly working with people that you're competing with before. Was that a little weird being on the same team and working together hand in hand with people you were fighting with for shows just months before?
It was, but to be honest, even if we competed, we were still kind of friends. It's not like, I mean, you say, okay, I want that tour or whatever, I want that deal. But as I was mostly on the jazz side before that, so it's smoother. They don't fight for the jazz acts, to be honest. And then, for the other shows we did from Munich, like Santana or Kelly Clarkson, it was clear who did the show. So it was not like at that time, it was not like everyone wanted the act. So it was easier for us. And then, so it was like they were kind of more or less embracing it because they said, oh, you know what we want. You know how we want to see our costs. So it was a really great transition, I must say. And it was not like, oh no, how can we deal now?
When you made the switch from promoter to venue side, were there amazing things that you were like, the venue's making all this money, they have all the bar and they have all the parking and they have all the ticketing, and you get to the other side and realize there's actually expenses to run those rooms that you didn't realize before? Or?
I mean, it was like, obviously, yes, of course, the F&B and premium uplifts and everything. It was interesting to finally get to know all that is on that venue side. But at the same time, you also see all of the costs. So you more or less realize, okay, it's not like they taking all of it.
Because it feels like that as a promoter sometimes. They're just taking it all.
I know, but it's not the case. So you also get to realize they're not greedy. It's like, it's reasonable. I mean, of course, they always, when they came, they were like, come on, what can we do? You know how it is. And I mean, you always find a way to, if there is a show that didn't work well, we are the least to say, okay, we can help you. There's always a way we try to accommodate the promoter as well. But at the same time, everybody needs to get a share.
At the same time, as a promoter and then a venue operator, you got to realize if the promoter's not getting rich and the venue's not getting rich, who's taking all the money?
There is someone.
Maybe that's the guy that's getting the 90% when they walk out of the door.
Or 95.
Yeah. Those deals are getting a little weird these days.
Yes.
So let's talk about the business in Berlin.
Yeah.
When you think about it, particularly as we're pretty much dominated in the United States and Canada and the UK as far as the podcast. So when you think about places like Berlin, you wonder what kind of production actually exists there. Are the huge line arrays there and are the big video screens there? If the bands fly in as the local production, the same stuff they get in the States?
It is, yeah. I mean, Berlin is amazing. It's an amazing city. So many people from the US now move to Berlin because they feel that vibe. It's somehow a little bit like, I feel it's somehow like New York, that vibration. You come to the city and you feel, oh, it's changing and there's so much going on. I mean, we hosted the EMAs, we hosted the Echoes when they were still there. All these huge productions, they come to our venue and they don't feel a difference. Sometimes they're like, wow, this is amazing. And sometimes it's like, it's even better than in the US.
Now, I would think most of the acts that you're focusing on are the big international acts that are importing through. Is there a big local Berlin scene that, like, you've got headliners playing the arenas?
I mean, we have a huge local act, Helene Fischer, German Schlager act. She played 5 shows in a row at the arena, so which is more than any international act has done so far.
Okay, you got to go back to German Schlager. What is that?
That's like folk music, but German folk music.
Okay, so it'd be like Americana for Germany. It's Germicana.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, she's huge. So she did all of the arena shows. She played 5 shows in every
5
market.
shows in the same arena?
Yes.
How many seats?
13,000.
Per night?
Yes.
Dude, we got to get some Jürgen Schlager in the States. That's amazing.
Yeah. And
okay,
she's good looking.
Okay, give me the act one more time because I can feel people Spotifying this immediately.
Helene Fischer.
Helene Fischer.
Yes.
Guessing probably not an arena act in the States yet, but like
no.
German Schlager's got to have some kind of following. We got a big German population in the U.S. All right. What else is selling in Berlin? What are the hot acts that are coming through?
Florence and the Machine. She's playing next week. Obviously, we had U2 last year. Drake is always selling very well. But I mean, most of the German local acts also do pretty well. I mean, we have lots of Schlager now. And what comes up more and more is e-gaming. So loads of e-gaming.
Yeah, that seems to be exploding around the world right now.
It is.
The idea of like going over to somebody's house and watching them play video games bores the hell out of me. And yet people are buying arena tickets to see this.
And what is amazing, they take like 10 to 20 days in the arena. And I mean, you cannot do that with an international act. So last year we had PUBG. They did the finals. So they were in the building like for 12 days. This year we're going to have Counter-Strike in September. And the requests are coming in more and more. And also the German comedians do pretty well.
Who are some of the big German comedians that can play the arenas?
Mario Barth, Luke Mockridge, and also a female one, Caroline Quebecos. She's playing next week, and it's also going to be sold out. 11,000 tickets sold.
Do sports play the arena? Do you guys have a tenant?
Yeah, we have 2 anchor tenants, basketball and ice hockey. Ice hockey is our own team, Eisbären Berlin. And luckily, they won the pre-playoff game, the first pre-playoff game last night. So tomorrow is the next game, and we're excited. We hope that they make it to the quarterfinals.
How many games will each team play in the arena?
Ice hockey is 26 and basketball is 17, regular season plus the playoffs.
Okay, so you've got another 200 days to fill after the sports teams are done.
Yeah, last year we had our best year. We had 156 events, including sports. It was 8 cancellations, so we would have done more than 160 shows. And it was our 10th anniversary last year.
That's incredible.
It is.
Are you guys seeing boxing or MMA come in?
We have a regular MMA, local MMA event every December. It's Wheel of MMA. We had UFC once, but also in our Hamburg arena, UFC, they come there regularly. And boxing from time to time as well.
Is that stuff strong in the market?
It's not that strong anymore. I mean, the big fighters are not there currently. I mean, Klitschko times are over. Those were the big fights. So now we just hosted a small fight at our new location, the Verti Music Hall, that opened in October. We had 2,000 people there. It was a small event, more or less.
Does the venue promote in-house as well, or are promoters tied to every show?
From time to time, we do in-house own promotes. We did a few shows in the past for our AG Presents colleagues, but we don't do that regularly because normally the promoters don't like that much. They don't want the venues to promote.
I'm not going to buy the date, but I still don't want you to buy it. It's a very possessive phone call, but I think I've made it a couple times.
I mean, we don't want to tip on anybody's toes. So we did a small kids show on our own, which was because the promoter, he had a local partner, and the local partner was fine saying, okay, it doesn't make sense if we split it in 3. So you can do it. And that was fine. So we did that. It can happen, but it's not. We just rent the building.
So it sounds like it's a really, really diverse market all the way around.
It is, yeah.
With the competing markets and the competing promoters and other venues, is it a fight for shows? Or since you guys are the big venue in the market, are you guys getting pretty much all the A stuff?
No, I mean, we have a competitor in the market. So it is not always that we get all of the shows. Sometimes it's because it's a playoff date and we cannot give the date away so that we lose shows. From time to time, it's also that the promoter just says, okay, I'm not sure that the act is that strong, and they rather play the 9,000 capacity venue, although we have cut down versions, but still they just feel that will be the next step. So not play the arena this time, but coming back next time, which is always tough when you think, oh, maybe we make the difference and the act could have sold like more than 9,000 tickets, because we obviously have a big marketing package that comes when you rent the building. And with the new Mercedes-Platz that just opened and all the media towers, it's like a little bit little LA now, like LA Live. You need to come and see it. It's an amazing place. It's amazing. Yeah, we have so many opportunities to promote shows now on all of our screens and the marketing we do, the newsletter send outs and social media, you name it. So sometimes we just feel maybe the act would have been stronger at the arena than in the other building. But you never know. I mean, they have the risk. And of course, we cannot force anyone to play in the arena, but we obviously try to get the shows.
So you've been on both sides. You know the promoter side. You know the venue side. Which do you like better?
I must admit, I like both sides. The venue side, what is exciting about it is that there's so many different shows coming up. The diversity, to be honest, and to also have the anchor tenants, to have sports there is amazing, just to see the difference in the vibes that the audience feel during a game or during a show is such a great experience. So, and I still feel like I'm still part of that other world. So I don't really separate it. From time to time it happens. I just did 3 shows for a friend of mine with French singer Zaz. So I did a settlement for 3 shows. So I was on tour for 3 dates.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so
just got a little taste of it.
And it was just they needed someone who speaks French, so I said, okay, I can do that. And it's interesting for me also to see the other buildings and to see their deals. So it helps me also to kind of, if a promoter comes and says, oh, it's much cheaper in that venue, and I know I've been there, and I'm like, you sure? It is nice to still have a foot on the promoter side and see what's going on there and how other venues operate.
How many languages do you speak?
5.
I love that you had to think about that. What are they? Obviously English.
English, French, German, Wolof, which is...
I've never even heard of that.
In Western Africa.
Wolof?
Wolof, yes. And Pula, which is also spoken in Western Africa.
Okay, so you've got 5 languages, 2 of which I've never heard of. That's amazing. What's your first language?
German.
Okay, and is that what you think in?
No, well, I mean, now that I'm speaking, it's English I'm thinking, and if I'm French, then I just
you just
think
go back
French.
and forth
yes,
easily?
I switch the languages in my head.
That's crazy impressive. You were talking about, you've got the cut down setups, and as long as I've been a concert promoter, I've been hearing this from venue managers across the world. We cut down to a beautiful theater setup. I believe the most recent is we have an amazing club setup in our theater where we set it up in the Concord Lounge, which is it's a great 500 seat setup at the O2 or something, right? So what do you actually comfortably set up to a cut down end that actually makes sense? Because you got to sell a certain number of tickets that's even worthwhile for you to open up your room, because your overhead's crazy big compared to a theater, right? So at some point, 1,200 seats probably doesn't work. Like even at a $75 ticket, there has to be some range where it's like, it doesn't make sense until you can sell this many tickets at this ticket price.
So we have a so-called half house, which is 4,500, 5,000.
And that's all curtaining up?
Yes, it really looks great. We have sent pictures, because some promoters were like, they're not sure it could still look like an arena, but they have seen pictures and they were impressed. And then we have a lot of these shows, and then suddenly they sell better. So we have like half house, 2/3, and then end stage. So there is that opportunity that once tickets increase, you can move and you're still in the same building. You don't need to move buildings. But I mean, also with the opportunity of the new Verti Music Hall, where we have a seated version of 2,100, depending on the stage size, or 4,100 GA floor. It's an opportunity to have like smaller acts, mid-size acts, playing there, and then next time bring them to the arena, because they just have that one campus. And they see, well, once they come there, they see the media towers, they see the opportunities. And then, yeah, that's what we think that might help us in the future.
The Country to Country just played your market, right?
Correct. And they played the Verti Music Hall.
Is country breaking in your market? It's not really big in too many places yet. Australia has it. London seems to have taken to it, but this new program seems to be really working.
It does, yeah. I mean, to be honest, we were surprised by the people who came and really came like cowboys. So at the first time it was like, because it's obviously it was carnival time, it was like, is it real or is it just that they...
The novelty?
Yeah. But they really felt it. So it was like they wanted it and they were into it and they ran into the building once we opened doors. It was like, wow. It's like if there was a boy group playing. So we were pretty amazed by it. And it was our first time to really host country. Yeah, the people really, they liked it. They flew in for the event. Did it sell this time? Yeah.
So do you think that's something that'll spawn into actually regular headliners coming in?
Yeah, we're doing it next year again. We're already on sale for next year. The promoter's added a third date, so it's evolving, and we're happy about it.
Maybe we can reverse it in America and have German Schlager Country to Country.
Maybe Helene Fischer does a country song. That would help.
Some crossover. I like it.
Yeah.
How much of your talent is imported from around the world, and how much is local Berlin?
To be honest, some of the local Berlin acts, they tend to play the competitor because some of these bands, they're like, we don't want a branded venue.
Oh, really? They care about that?
Yes, some of these bands do. But then it's only because in Berlin they have the opportunity. In other markets, they play our arena in Hamburg, the Barclaycard Arena, because there is no competitor, so to speak. When I'm talking to the agent, I'm like, yeah, but your band plays those other places with all these naming rights partners. Yeah, because they don't have a choice. It's weird, but it happens. But other than that, we have more local content than we have international content.
Do you have any advice for young people coming up in the industry?
I'd say try to be diverse, try to look into every department. It was great that I started in ticketing because it's always good to know how you put a show on sale and what's in it. Also marketing, all the social media stuff, obviously. Also go on tour just to see how that feels and how it is to be around the artist and to get a feeling about it. And go to
get your
other
hands
places.
dirty and get into it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking time and talking to me.
Thanks for having me.
Clearly, she is on the move. Just thrilled to have her here on Promoter 101.
Hey, this is Craig Newman. For all you lovers out there, turn on the AM radio, put down your inhibitions, and pick up a cool glass of Promoter 101.
So this is the time I let you know that you can contact us by emailing us at steiny@promoter101.net. Let us know your feelings. Tell us what's going on in your mind. If there's somebody you're like, hey, how do I get in the room with this person? We can usually give you a little bit of help with that.
That's right. We want to know how to think. Leave us your thoughts. Drop us a review. But thank you so much for tuning in to episode 141 of Promoter 101. Very pleased to have two wonderful guests in AEG Germany's Aissata Hartmann and Denver's Francois Baptiste in from 3D Productions. Wonderful, wonderful guests. We're going to be back Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. in the East, looking for episode 142 of Promoter 101.
That's right. When we join you next, we will have Francois Baptiste with us for his feature interview. And I got to tell you, it's one to catch. He is really something.
Until then, we're wishing you sold-out shows for the week ahead. Cheers.
Call your mother.
This is Dan Weiner from Paradigm on Promoter 101.
Ba-da-ba-ba.